You are listening to Lone Star Community Radio on 104.5 KCZWLP Conroe and 106.1 KZCCLP Conroe and worldwide on irlonestar.com.
Thanks for checking out this recording on Lone Star Community Radio. This is Dick, the General Manager of Lone Star Community Radio, and I wanted to give you a quick reminder of what's going on with us for the month of September. A new show has been added to our lineup. The Good News with Ted Cox is going to be on Tuesdays from 1 to 3 p.m. during our Talk Block. And also joining the Talk Block is going to be Mornings with Lone Star. Every weekday from 10 to 11 a.m., Mornings with Lone Star will extend their normal programming from music into talk. That's right. Starting from now on, from 8 to 11 a.m., Mornings with Lone Star. First 2 hours, music, talk, fun. And then from 10 to 11, more nitty-gritty talk radio for you. Also extending their time slot is going to be our favorite Saturday morning show, Grit and Grace. They're going to be extending their hours from 8 to 10 a.m. every Saturday morning for you. Also, the last reminder is we still have plenty of talk slots available for those who want to be a talk show host and also volunteer DJs for music. If you're interested in those kind of things, please let the studio know at lscrstudios@gmail.com or call the station at the message line at 936-647-3776. Thanks again for checking out Lone Star Community Radio, and I hope you enjoyed the show.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome into Jake from Sports Talk here on Lone Star Community Radio. I am your host, Mr. Jake LaFleur, and I'm glad to have you all here with me, and we are broadcasting live from the Lone Star Community Radio studios in downtown Conroe, Texas. And glad to have all of you back in. If you're joining me here on the FM waves in the greater Montgomery County area on 104.5 or 106.1, welcome in. If you're joining worldwide, adios. Or no, that's goodbye. Hola. There we go. That one. Hola, and welcome in to my little humble abode that I call a sports talk show. And don't forget, you can always listen live anywhere and everywhere you go to the Lone Star Community radio station on irlonestar.com. And don't forget, guys, to follow the show on Facebook, YouTube, Google Play, and iTunes. You can like it and subscribe to the show so that way you never miss an episode or an opportunity to re-listen to your favorite show. You know, if you hear a show of mine, you're like, ooh, that's really good. Or if you hear Mike's Likes, which we're going to have Mike's Likes back in for the second segment. If you hear his likes and you're like, ooh, I got to remember those, but you can't remember them come Friday, and you're like, oh, man, what do I do? Got to go follow the show, got to go find it on YouTube and rewatch the Mike's Likes segment, just so that way you can find out who he picks and if you agree with him. So we're going to get started as we always do at every week's show with a week in a wrap, but this week's is going to be on the shorter end, because we do have a lot to get to today. A busy sports weekend dominated by the NFL, but for a little bit of a different reason than we are normally used to. And always nice to have Trump in the headlines, right? So let's get the show started with a week in a wrap. Get it on. All right, we're going to start this week with the NBA. NBA makes the headlines again this past weekend, even in a weekend dominated by the NFL. LeBron James gets an old friend back on his side with Dwayne Wade coming to Cleveland to join the Cavaliers and their hopeless hunt for another NBA championship. Wade was released by the Bulls, bought out essentially on on Friday. For the remainder of a 1-year veterans minimum of 2.3. And Sunday morning, he went over this Monday morning, he signed a 2.3 million, again, veterans minimum, 1-year contract with the Cavs. I actually really like this signing by the Cavs because it puts them more competitive later in the year. If they handle Dwayne Wade correctly and they don't play him significantly throughout the actual regular season until towards the end, I really think that he can be a factor coming off of the bench and helping their bench play, and being a leader on the court when LeBron, goes to the bench. So I really like this pickup. Also in basketball news, the New York Knicks move on Sunday the infamous Carmelo Anthony, and they trade him on over to the Oklahoma City Thunder to join the likes of Westbrook and Paul George to further the building process of a super team there in Oklahoma City. I don't think we haven't seen that since Harden and Durant were also down there with Westbrook. But it's awesome to see how sneakily Oklahoma City did this. We had no news of any interest in Carmelo Anthony going to Oklahoma City. It was basically, okay, I want to go to Houston or I want to go to the Cavs. I'm not going to go to the Bulls. I'm not going to go to the Lakers. I'm not going to go to the Clippers. So it was just down to these two teams, and New York wasn't going to be able to get the deal done with either of those two teams, and therefore we thought, okay, Carmelo's going to be in New York for one more year. But no, here comes sneaky old OKC and building up a really impressive team. And I think they're the best team to challenge the Golden State Warriors as the season goes on. I think they're better than the Rockets. Sorry, Houston listeners. I think they're better than the Rockets. I think they have a better chance as far as speed-wise, being able to compete. Using Russell's ability, his quickness and his agility to get to the middle and bounce out to Paul George and to Carmelo, I think that bodes well in competing with the Warriors. In Detroit, switching over to baseball, Detroit Tigers are in a total rebuilding process. We saw that evidence when they sent their veteran pitcher Verlander down to Houston and to join the Astros in their playoff hunt to win a world championship. But in the latest news, in their latest rebuilding process, they are going to release the manager, Brad Ausmus, longtime Astros catcher, a dream boat for the ladies to look at as he squatted behind home plate. And so on a contract year for him after this year, they are not going to renew his contract after the 2017 season. And I think that means that we could see him in a Astros uniform again coming next year. Now, not as a player, obviously, but not as a manager as well. But obviously, he would be in some assistant coach realm. I don't see any real head managing positions opening up in this off season that would necessarily attract Brad Ausmus, or that Brad Ausmus would necessarily want to take in general. So I think you could see him come down to the Astros and take in a assistant coach position down here. And I think that would be awesome for the city, because who doesn't love Brad Ausmus? And the ladies can start staring at him. He's now a silver fox, right? He's got that graying, whiting hair up top, and my sister-in-law used to be in love with him, madly in love with him. So I think the ladies of Houston would like to have him back in town. So all right, and staying with the MLB, a quick feel-good story coming out of baseball from this past Saturday. The Boston Red Sox manager, John Farrell, had an experience that no other father, and he can say this, no other father in the world has ever had as far as MLB is concerned. He got to watch from the dugout his son pitch for the opposing team. It's never happened before. We've seen father-son combinations playing together. We've seen them go against each other, but we've never seen a pitcher pitch against his own father. And it was really touching to watch. Luke Farrell is the name of the son. He plays for the Cincinnati Reds. Red Sox were at Cincinnati this past weekend, and Luke came in for one inning of relief during the game, and after the inning was over and he got his 3 outs and he was walking off, John Farrell came out, the manager for the Red Sox, tipped his cap to his son. Really awesome opportunity for a father-son sort of feeling. A little different than my dad getting to hear me on the radio. I know that makes him proud in a certain extent, but I'm not getting paid millions and millions of dollars to do this yet. Hopefully one day, Dick will finally pay me something, maybe $1 worth or something. Woo! He gives me a thumbs up. There we go. Perfect. All right, and to wrap up this final segment, we're going to dive into what has basically broken yesterday. It was a story kept really quiet really under wraps. Nobody really had any inclination that this was going on, this investigation was going on at all. But the FBI has come forward with findings about the NCAA basketball scandal that has been kept incredibly quiet and under wraps until yesterday, when the FBI announced that they would hold a press conference to divulge the information that they have found on several universities, coaches, agents, and as of right now, only one shoe company. So, out of the coaches and the universities named in this fraud scandal, Oklahoma State's Lamont Evans, Auburn's Chich Persons, and Arizona's Emmanuel Richardson, and USC's Tony Bland. The 6 others charged, there were 3 individual in the affidavit that they released yesterday. There was a total of 10 people charged. It was those 4 coaches. The 6 others were 3 individuals from Adidas, including their global director of sports marketing, James Gatto, and then 3 managers associated with player management companies, basically meaning agents. And so how all this kind of played out and how all this works is, and it's really complicated. It's very organized. It took a lot of effort out of everybody involved to pull this off and to do it in such a low-key manner to where, this has been going on for some time, as far as we, are finding out. This isn't something that has happened for, just this past year. No, this is something that we think has been occurring for almost probably a decade now. So the shoe companies were working with the agents of these players management companies. And what they were doing is they were saying, okay, shoe company pays agent, and agent gives money to, shoe company, it's very complicated. Shoe company gives money to assistant coaches. Assistant coaches give the money to basketball players to entice them to come to their school, and saying, if you come to our school, we'll give you $100,000. So the player comes to the school. The shoe company is working with the assistant coach and an agent, and is basically saying, okay, you're good enough to go to the NFL. We're going to invite you to come to our school and play. We're going to give you the $100,000. You're going to enter the draft after 1 year. And when you go in and sign up for the draft, you're going to sign up with this agent. And that's basically the deal the assistant coach makes with the player. For $100,000, you come to us and you sign up with this agent. The agent then gets the player. And then once the player gets into the NFL and gets drafted, the agent then turns back to the shoe company, Adidas, and says, okay, now you're going to sign a shoe contract with Adidas. So, very complicated. Go do the research. They've got some graphs on there that show how all this plays out. I know I probably didn't do the best job of explaining it. But that's how in-depth this story goes. And that's how crazy organized this entire... this is organized crime. This is mob boss stuff, and it's intense. And out of all of it, there's only 10 charges have been put out so far. But there are lists of others, and including major universities like the University of Miami, the University of North Carolina, the University of Louisville, that are all involved in some way or another, but there's been no charges directly relating to that to those universities or any of their coaches. However, Louisville basketball program went ahead and already said, or not the basketball program, but the university already said, we're going to go ahead and put our AD on temporary leave with pay, and then Rick Pitino, the head coach, on temporary leave or indefinite leave without pay. So, the FBI went all out on this: wiretaps, undercover agents, informants, numerous other techniques to gather all their information and put together, this case. And this is a huge scandal. I don't think we've seen another scandal this big in the college basketball realm. But you look at the college athletics realm altogether, this is up there, and if not, it may be bigger than what we saw at Penn State with Paterno and all that stuff. So, yeah, crazy what we saw there. They're out of the NCAA, and it's not all out, and we're not done with this yet, and it's going to keep building and growing. So I'm interested to see how this continues out for the weeks to come. So when we come back, we're going to be joined by our favorite numbers man, Mr. Moneybags Mike, here with Mike's Likes segment here on Jake from Sports Talk. And while you're at the commercial break, I encourage you to go check out the show's social media pages. Follow, like, subscribe, do everything you need to do to never miss a moment of this fun here at Jake from Sports Talk. We'll be right back here on 104.5, 106.1, and worldwide on irlonestar.com. So don't change the station!
Our talk shows and music shows are looking for sponsors. Want to expand your brand awareness? Reach the hyper-local audience in Montgomery County? Lone Star Community Radio sponsorships accomplish this. Want to see our stats and rates? Check out irlonestar.com/sponsor for more information. Or call in and leave us a message at 936-647-3776.
This is a little later in the song. I haven't heard this far into the track. I like it. It's a little more deep mellowy, a little more intense. But welcome back. You are listening to Jake from Sports Talk here on irlonestar.com or 104.5, 106.1. Coming to you live from the Lone Star Community Radio Studios in downtown beautiful Conroe, Texas. Glad to have you all in, and glad to have in our next guest, or our only guest ever, because he's so good he has to take up the whole stage all himself. Mr. Moneybags Mike with Mike's Likes here with us now. How's it going, Mikey?
Hey, how's it going, Jake?
Doing well, bud. How about you?
Doing pretty good.
Yeah,
ready to get in the action.
No exercising this week. No calling out of breath.
No, I decided that I might want to take a little breather here, focus on my football picks. And,
yeah.
I can always work out later.
That's right. Yeah, put it off for later. Who cares if you have a belly?
I'll be all right.
All right. Well, hey, let's get started. Let's get jumping right into this. I want to start out with one of the games that we talked about, the Panthers and Pats. I think this is the most interesting game that you have with the Pats at -9.
Cool. So before we even dive into a lot of the games, one thing I wanted to mention was just last week being a really crazy week in the NFL.
It was.
A lot of upsets. Out of the 16 games, 11 were home wins. Of those 11 wins, 6 of those were actually underdog wins, so teams that were not favored. So it was a pretty crazy week, and that's why all my picks this week are all home teams.
Yeah.
So starting off with the Pats, so the Panthers are going into New England. The spread is -9, so obviously it's a large spread. I think the Panthers, yes, they're 2-1, but their offense has really struggled. I think the Patriots are coming back. They did play a really close game against the Houston Texans, which had them kind of holding their breath a little bit. But I think the Patriots come out, they take care of business. I think the Panthers continue to struggle, and the Patriots are going to kind of keep moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I agree. And even though the line's at 9, I like the Pats there in that one. Speaking of that Texans game from last week, I was watching it, and the entire time I was getting messages and stuff from Texans fans saying, "Oh, we're gonna beat the Patriots. Oh, we're gonna beat the Patriots." And I was like, "No, you're not. Tom Brady's gonna win this. It's okay."
Yeah, wait till the final minute when it's over, and then you can say that you won. But
yeah,
until it's over, it's not over.
And Bill O'Brien, coach of the week, man. Woo! All right,
yeah.
Moving on to the next game, Bengals at Browns. I think I smell an upset here on this one.
I do. So this is one where the Cleveland Browns are home. They have +3.5. They're getting a field goal. I think the Browns finally get their first win. They've been playing a lot of close games. The Bengals did play well in Lambeau against the Packers last week. That's at least a little bit uplifting for them. But the Browns have been playing good defense. They're starting to put together on offense. I think all around it's going to be probably an ugly game, a little bit low scoring. But I think the Browns will end up pulling it out and get their first win of the season.
So 0-3 Browns going to get their first win. What about them 0-3 Giants going to your Bucks, Mikey? What do you think?
So I will be in Tampa Bay to watch this game live.
Yeah, and with some other bum named my brother as well. And I'm I didn't even get an invite to this. I'm so upset.
I mean, I would much rather have you come instead of him, but he knows how to get an invite. So,
yeah.
But I'll be at the game. The Bucks are 3.5 favorites, which, I mean, the Bucks really struggled against the Vikings last week. They had a ton of injuries on their defense. Out of those 11 starters, 6 or 7 of them had to be replaced for injuries. So it definitely concerns me. Luckily, the Giants' offense is still not quite where it used to be last year. They looked better against the Eagles. They definitely had a shot at that game. I have my fingers crossed. I do have some doubts about this game. The Giants definitely could pick up a win here, but I'm hoping the Bucs can at home take care of business. It's going to be a sold-out crowd there, so it should be a good time.
Had a shot at that game. They lost on a 61-yarder field goal by a rookie PA. I was so mad. I was so mad when I was ready to throw a chair through a TV.
I know, and that's finally one where you're like, all right, we got a shot. Like, let's get our first win of the season, and then you think you're at least getting overtime.
Yeah, I was thinking we were at least getting overtime, and we looked really good in the fourth quarter offensively, and so I was ready to go, but the defense was so tired after playing so much. Yeah, that was a hard win or a hard loss to swallow there on that one.
After all the start with the Giants, starting off 0-2, they really could have used a division win, and now they really need a win.
Well, yeah,
sure.
Especially with Cowboys sitting 2-1 at the top of the division. So.
Yep.
But okay, let's move on to the next one. This is my favorite game that I want to watch the most this weekend. The Raiders at Broncos. I think this is going to be a smash mouth football game. And what do you think with the line being at 3 in favor of the Broncos?
I think it's the correct line. I think both teams really surprisingly struggled last week. They played some pretty mediocre teams. The Broncos played the Bills and the Raiders played the Redskins, but both were away teams, and those were two of those examples that the home team won pretty decidedly. The Bills won by 10. The Redskins beat up the Raiders that entire night.
Yeah.
The Raiders' offense really had nothing going for it. So I think it's a concern for both teams, but it is a division game. They both need this win. I like the Broncos. I like them at home. I think they're one of the best teams playing at home. Their defense is still smothering type defense, and if the Redskins can shut down the Raiders, then the Broncos can certainly shut down the Raiders.
Well, and just how bad the Raiders' offensive line looked against a fairly mediocre Redskins D-line. I think that Broncos front seven is going to have just a field day on them. So
totally, and then even the week before, the Rams put up 20, 25 points on the Redskins, and that's Jared Goff, and the Rams offense, which is not supposed to be amazing, and this is supposed to be the Raiders offense, which is a top 5 in the league. So we'll see. I think we'll really learn what type of Raiders team we're going to see this year. With this game, we're going to see if they are that number 1, number 2 seed, or are they maybe a wild card, contender? If
the Raiders are for real or not. Well, let's get into our final game, which is the one everybody here, and I saved it for last because we got Titans at Houston. Houston's at home, but they're technically an underdog here.
They are technically an underdog. The Titans are getting 1.5 points, but almost an even matchup. I realized after all this, the week 4 is the first time I'm actually picking a game that's the Houston Texans, so I should probably start doing it more. But I'm taking the Texans this week. I was very impressed with their game plan against the Patriots, as much as they didn't win. To be that close in that football game is very, very impressive. Their defense, as much as the Patriots put up a bunch of points, they played well. The Titans played the Seahawks and played well and got a win, but the Seahawks it's a totally different conversation. Yeah. But they're a team definitely on the decline. I think Houston's going to play great at home. I think the Titans' offense is going to struggle. I still think a low-scoring game, but I think Deshaun Watson is the truth. I think he looks great, and he's taken the Texans to a point where if their defense can maintain a top 10 defense, he can definitely give them a playoff chance.
Well, and so that offense we finally, for the Tennessee Titans, we finally saw DeMarco Murray get some actual, heavy playing time for the first time. Do you think that's going to be a continuous trend as we continue the season along?
I think a trend as the season goes on. I think this week the running game and the total offense is going to struggle a little bit. But as it moves on, I think these are the two teams that are battling for the division title. I think they're both going to hover around 9-7. It's going to be these head-to-head matchups are going to be essential, and who's going to come out on top. So this game's a very, very important game. So we'll see who comes out on top. But I think the Texans take it in a close, low-scoring game.
So Mikey, we got Giants versus Bucks this weekend. You want to play a little wager here? You want to say if the Giants beat the Bucks, you have to wear a Giants jersey for a day?
Absolutely, but it's got to go both ways.
All right, that's fine. I'll wear a Bucks jersey for a day.
You gotta wear the Bucks jersey for your broadcast next week.
All right, that sounds good. All right, Mr. Mikey.
That's a deal?
That sounds perfect.
All right.
Well, thanks for joining us in, Mikey, man, and we'll see you next week.
You got it, Jake. Good luck on Sunday.
Thanks. I love having him in here, but I think the Bucks will, or I guess I should say the Giants will surprise the Bucks this weekend, and I think the Giants get their first win this weekend. So I don't think I'm going to be wearing a Bucks jersey next Wednesday, but we'll see. I'm going to have to find a Bucks jersey real quick because I don't know where to get one of those around the greater Houston area. But all right, guys, we're going to go into our break, and when we come back, we're going to discuss everything that's going on between Trump, the NFL, Jerry Jones, kneeling, all that good stuff. It's going to be a lot of fun. Stick around. You're listening to Jake from Sports Talk here on Lone Star Community Radio, 104.5, 106.1, and worldwide on irlonestar.com.
Remember to download the Lone Star Community Radio app from your Google Play Apple Store. Bring Montgomery County's community radio with you anywhere with your smartphone or tablet. If you are in the Conroe area, tune in on FM 104.5, 106.1. If you are on your computer, bookmark irlonestar.com as your internet radio station. Lone Star Community Radio broadcasting 24/7 from the heart of downtown Conroe, Texas.
Welcome back to Jake from Sports Talk here on irlonestar.com and 104.5, 106.1 here from the Lone Star Community Radio. And glad to have you all back in joining here on Jake from Sports Talk. I am your host, Mr. Jake LaFleur. And wow, this song takes an Indian twist to it. That is very interesting. Well, anyways, you're getting me distracted by my music, Dick. When we left or right before the break, we were talking about the whole kneeling situation that's going on in the NFL right now, and I just really wanted to kind of chime in on this. And you can't start this topic or this whole subject without starting to talk with Trump, and I don't really want to be the negative Nancy here on this or anything like that. I don't want to get overly political or anything like that as well. But I feel like we need to include him in on this. So I am going to censor his comments because often you have to censor our president's comments, unfortunately. But what Donald Trump said at a political rally in Huntsville, Alabama, he was kind of doing, I've heard it referred to as the Kings of Comedy. He looked really relaxed when he was giving this speech. And as the speech kind of went on, he got more and more relaxed and ultimately slipped out an explicitive. So he said, quoting, "Wouldn't you love to see one of these NFL owners, when somebody disrespects our flag, to say, 'Get that son of a bleep off the field right now. Out. He's fired. He's fired.'" End quote. So the fact that a president is saying that you basically can't protest is very interesting. And to start, just breaking down his comments altogether. The fact that a president is saying you can't protest is interesting. And I understand that, yes, disrespecting the flag, and I agree with the fact that kneeling during the national anthem is not only a disrespect to the flag, but also to the song. And there's two things that brand a nation more so than anything else, and that is the flag and the national anthem for that country. It would be to say, if you were at a World Cup event for FIFA and the Iranians had a team in there, and while their national anthem, I don't know what I was trying to think of a controversial nation that's good at soccer. What's one of those?
Well, I mean, they've been in international matches where they play the wrong national anthem.
For us or
for different teams, yeah.
Nice.
Definitely has happened several times.
Well, okay, yeah. So, but that's one of those things. Was it intentional or accidental?
It was accidental, but
well, okay, yeah. But so say intentionally, while the Iranian national anthem is going on, a bunch of Syrians started playing the Vuvuzelias. You know what I'm talking about? Those loud horn things.
Well, they did that. The most recent one was, I forget what team it was. They kept practicing during the national anthem.
Wow.
Yeah, I'll look it up. But that was a big deal because it was honoring something. It was. I'm gonna look it up real quick. So you keep talking.
But that's my point. And those the flag and the national anthem are the two symbols for your country and for your nation, and they have a lot of meaning towards what we stand for as Americans, as citizens of the United States.
It was a moment of silence. Saudi Arabia didn't observe the moment of silence when London, the Manchester attacks.
Oh, okay.
So basically, the awkwardness was Australia was in the middle, all linked up, and then Saudi Arabia just kept playing during the moment of silence.
I don't even know really how to comment on that.
So,
how to comment on that PC wise.
yeah.
So, well, yeah, but as an example, and I knew from a soccer world standpoint, and insulting another country's flag.
I think the biggest thing to let go is if anything happened remotely in like Europe, people would fight. Like it would just be insane.
Oh, it would be mad. It would be madness. Yeah.
When they have that today. They have that issue every weekend in soccer. The police have this huge deal to deal with. Like my favorite one recently was Köln in Germany went to play Arsenal.
Yeah.
And so when they do European style games, they only give so many tickets to the away fans. And I think there was like 3,000 to 4,000 tickets were given to away fans. Well,
is that to limit the chaos?
Yes, and it just depends on where the venue is. Some venues have certain rules where season ticket holders get so many tickets to every game. So, for example, Arsenal is probably the most expensive ticket there is in the Premier League, and so they like to sell those tickets. And 20,000 Germany fans came to the city to watch the game or whatever. And there was actually, you can look it up, where they take over the streets, like shoulder to shoulder down the streets in London. Are all these fans going down,
bringing back World War II?
Oh, they were fighting outside the stadium, and they're trying to get in, and like they even went as far as buying memberships, which is like a $300 one-time fee to buy tickets because you have to be a member of of Arsenal or whatever
club.
Or and so they even went that far to wear jerseys and stuff. And when they get into the stadium, they take off the jerseys and cheer on their
It's just
own
a
journey.
soccer game.
Yeah, I know it. I mean, if you look up the history of Lazio.
No, and I get it. Heck, there was a guy in the Vikings game last week, and body head to toe painted purple. He had a blonde mustache painted on, eyebrows painted blonde. It's like, it's just a football game. Get over yourself, really. But yeah, the insanity of some of the fans and everything, what the extent of what they'll go to, but the amount of disrespect that you. And as an away fan, I can imagine at a soccer game like that, you are so timid and scared to probably disrespect the home fan just because of what they're capable of.
Well, I know another one. There was a controversy where the poppy, during the remembrance, the poppy flower has a lot of symbolic meaning to the UK, and basically during certain times in soccer, they would wear the poppy on their jerseys. Well, certain people, to give you an idea, the Republic of Ireland, they had, I forgot what it was, but it had, Ireland and Britain kind of fought for a while. And so a lot of players.
It's ongoing.
A lot of the players who are from Ireland didn't feel like they need to wear it because of what happened between the people. And so it became a huge controversy over there because they're thinking, oh, you're saying negative things about the people who died in World War II. In World War I, and I'm like, well, those same people killed our people, so why would you want me to wear this poppy, kind of thing? And they got fined. It's very similar. I mean,
it's very similar to what we're seeing with the flag stuff. So, but yeah, and good transition back over to the flag stuff, anyways. But the action in which the kneeling is taking place during the national anthem, and while the flag is out, in my opinion, is a clear and finite statement of disrespect towards our nation's symbol, two symbols that define this country, which is the flag and the anthem. And I have no problem with the fact that they did it and that they are currently doing it, and they have expanded upon doing it. It is our right as Americans to protest and utilize our freedom of speech in any form or fashion which we choose. But when everything comes out and everything is said and done, and we arrive on a Monday or a Tuesday following an NFL weekend, following the biggest display of protest in the NFL to this date during the national anthem and during the flag. We saw teams try to show pure unity and either linking arms and standing all together side by side along the field during the national anthem and while the flag was out. We saw teams like the Cowboys come out and take a knee as a team, linked arm in arm, taking a knee before the game started, before the flag was out, and before the national anthem was out. Kudos and props to Jerry Jones right there. That was a very smart move on him, and he kind of found the loophole to say, hey, we're going to protest, but we're going to do it, without the flag and without the national anthem there. And that way we're not disrespecting the national. And yeah, good for him. He found a little bit of a loophole, but that was a pure PR stunt. And he wanted to show that, oh yes, I allow my players to protest in any fashion they want to protest in, as long as it's not during the national anthem or while the flag is out. So kudos to him there for finding that loophole. But with all of this going on, what is the message in which these individuals are trying to send? Where is this argument going? Because we had somebody kneel during the national anthem this past Sunday, not in protest of what everybody else was apparently protesting for, and not showing unity like everybody else was trying to show. He was kneeling because he was showing respect to the victims of Hurricane Maria that hit Puerto Rico. He was kneeling for Puerto Rico. You had Ray Lewis down on 2 knees, not even a player anymore. He's some advisor for the Ravens now, and he really just needs to stop being in the league. He looks like a giant raisin that he's getting pruny, and it doesn't look good. He's not a good figure to have on TV. But he was down on 2 knees, and he was saying 1 knee is in protest and 2 knees are for the Lord. And I get it. Yeah, that's great. But you're convoluting the message that was ultimately trying to be sent. And that's the problem. There's no clear message with this quote unquote protest. You've got players kneeling for Puerto Rico. You've got players kneeling for God. You've got players kneeling for their mother's breast cancer. You've got players kneeling for the dog that got hit on the side of the road, so on and so forth. And I don't mean to be disrespectful, and I'm not trying to make light or fun of the entire situation altogether. But I bring it all back to the beginning, to Colin Kaepernick, and how all this got started. Kaepernick started this with a knee, all right? And he tried to make the best of the situation by bringing light to the injustice, in his words, the injustice that is being done to blacks and African Americans in this country by police. And, basically the armed forces as well, but less so, more so on the police side of things. And that message has been lost. And clearly it has been lost. It's been diluted by the lack of leadership and by too many hands in the cookie jar. And I've said it before on the show. Colin, where is your voice now? You had the biggest demonstration of protest in favor of what you were arguing for, apparently, go on this past weekend. And your voice is still quiet. And I understand, man, you want a job back in the NFL. I understand it. But at a time like this, when you started all this, you have to speak up. Where are you? And again, I'll go back to it again. You had the opportunity to do this correctly. And you chose to do it in the worst possible fashion, in my opinion. Because you're not going to get done what you need to get done with the national anthem. You're not going to have the success that you need to have doing it while you gave the people of America the opportunity to change the dialect of your message. Rather than your kneeling, standing and representing, your fight against police brutality, you gave them the opportunity by doing it during the national anthem to change it as, oh, he's just disrespecting the flag. You gave Trump the opportunity to say, oh, you're just disrespecting our flag and our country. When in reality, you weren't really attempting to do that. You were just trying to come out and make a pure stand against what you think is police brutality. And so therefore you did it incorrectly. If you had gone back and if you had done it in the correct manner, it would have been okay. And you know what? We could have avoided the situation we saw on Sunday with Villanueva. Not Anthony Villanueva. Alejandro Villanueva, who is a player for the Steelers. He has served 3 terms as an Army Ranger over in Iraq. And now he plays for the Steelers as an offensive lineman. And this man was so conflicted because he was receiving text messages from wounded veterans, and people were covering, saying, you have to go out for the national anthem. You have to go stand for that national anthem, for what you fought for in this country. Yet his team was remaining in the locker room. They had a meeting Saturday night, the night before the game, and they said that they wanted to stay in the locker room to try to remain neutral in this whole thing. And he said, I can't do it. And so here is his post-conference basically giving an apology.
Do you think the president should apologize for calling NFL players derogatory names or for drawing you guys into this in the first place?
You guys do this for a living. You guys enjoy, and you guys comment what the president says. I play football. I don't have anything to say about the commander-in-chief and his decisions. I've been following orders when I was in the military, and now, I'm not responsible enough to make a comment about the president. I stick to football. I respect if other players want to talk about the president and his decisions, but I have a lot on my plate. I have to play to a standard. I have to represent the Steelers organization, so I have nothing to comment about what the president says.
Guys, 3 more questions. In following the story and having to see that picture, what did you learn about how the country views this issue that can be divisive?
I think, I'm going to give credit to Coach Munchak because he's the one that sort of, decipher it for all of us. We're not talking about the same thing.
Yeah, as you can hear him,
understand when it comes to
talking there, for some reason it changed the clip on me here, and I'm really upset about that because there was a part in this interview. It's a 15-minute long interview. And I somehow it changed the clip on me, but in this 15-minute interview, he basically talked about how, through his actions, he disrespected his quarterback, he disrespected his offensive line, he disrespected his coach, he disrespected the entire organization, and he apologizes, profusely for doing so, and he takes full blame for that, and there's no reason he should have to apologize. He did nothing wrong. And yet he's still getting criticized and ridiculed for going out and standing for what he believes in by his teammates. And his teammates, not by the country, by his teammates, because not everybody knew he was going out there. And some players they came out and they said, I would have wanted to go stand by him, while other players were saying, no, he should have stayed in the locker room with us because we were all for one and one for all. And he made us look bad. And he has that mentality, and he has the offensive line mentality and the die as a team mentality, and that's why he felt really bad. And so, following this heartbroken, heart-wrenching apology conference, he came back, or his quarterback came out, Ben Roethlisberger, and he apologized profusely. And Ben Roethlisberger is not one to get out in front of the public and talk about morality by any means. He's had his own questionable morality, issues in the past. And man, to see Ben get out there and to see how much he was truly affected by this, he said, I wasn't able to sleep that night because he didn't go out there and stand by Villanueva's side. And that's just incredibly heart-wrenching to see these 2 gentlemen that have to apologize for absolutely nothing to come out and apologize. And it's all because this message, this so-called protest, has no meaning to it, and it has lost everything that it was started out to be. I have no problem with with people protesting in any form or fashion, as long as it doesn't physically hurt anybody, and we've seen that now. We've seen truly a decorated war hero truly hurt by this protest because it lacks any clear message. A lot like the Occupy Wall Street movement back in the day. So we're going to go to break. We're going to come back. We're going to have about real quick break, and then we're going to have about 8 minutes to close up. We're going to talk some baseball and everything that's going on next week. As playoffs start next Wednesday, and we're going to talk about the races. We'll be right back.
Lone Star Community Radio is looking for those who are interested in hosting their own talk show with monthly and weekly slots available on Conroe's FM 104.5 and 106.1 and on irlonestar.com. Start your own podcast, create your first YouTube channel, and be on TV. Contact Lone Star Community Radio online at irlonestar.com or call the station message line at 936-647-3776.
Welcome back.
Thank you for that.
I'm
glad we got that on YouTube.
Go
now.
watch the YouTube version and you'll see my crazy dancing. Welcome back to Jake from Sports Talk here on Lone Star Community Radio. I'm your host, Jake LaFleur. You are listening on 104.5, 106.1, or worldwide on irlonestar.com, or you are watching the replay on YouTube or on Google Play or on iTunes. And don't forget to follow all of my social media websites. And if you are watching the video version, you have seen me scratch my nose a bunch today. My nose has been super itchy today, and I don't know why. And I'm really sorry for the unprofessional video behavior I've been displaying today. My nose is just, it's itchy. You ever had those days where it's just itchy? Changing of weather, fall's here. All right, speaking of fall, we've got baseball playoffs starting next Wednesday. October 3rd is the start of the wild card round. And then October 5th, we'll start the divisional series games. So, in that news, Yankees, Red Sox, Astros, Dodgers, Rockies. Who else is in there? We've got Washington Nationals. We've got a bunch of teams clinching. The Yankees clinched this past weekend along with the Red Sox, but that division hasn't been won yet. That's one of the two remaining divisions that is left to have been won. And the Red Sox hold a 3-game lead right now going into the last 5 games of the season. So their magic number is 3. They lost last night. Yankees won, keeping them in that race. But the Yankees have clinched the number 1 spot for the wild card, and that clears them out there. There is a battle and a fight right now for the second wild card spot. Twins can clinch that spot. Minnesota can clinch that spot if they win tonight or with a LA loss, which I who knows? But we got that going right there. Washington is in there, and Chicago has not clinched yet. So that Central Division is still open, still available to be clinched on the NL side. The Cubbies not making the playoffs would be huge. Coming off of their first World Series win in 106 years, to not win, not win the division, but not even make a wild card spot would be crazy. Now, the likelihood of that happening is very odd and very unlikely because Chicago would literally have to lose out the remaining 5 games, and that means they would lose 1 more to Chicago because they lost to Chicago last night. St. Louis. They lost to St. Louis last night. If they lose to St. Louis tonight, and then they lose their next 4 against Milwaukee, that means that the divisional standings would come out for that division. You would have Milwaukee winning the division and St. Louis winning the second wild card spot behind Colorado, and the Cubbies outside looking in by 1 game. It would be just incredibly shocking, but we have now basically a pretty clear indication of what the playoff standings are going to look like. Houston is still chasing for the best record in the American League. They're only a game back on Cleveland, so it's doable that they can actually catch Cleveland. Which, if they do, that would have a big drastic change on the layout of the playoffs, and I think that would ultimately favor Houston, not just because they would play it at home for the entirety, and really they've played better on the road than they have at home, but more so they wouldn't have to face Boston in round 1. because you got Yankees making the wild card, and I think that's going to stick. I think the Yankees are going to be number 1 seed in the wild card. They're going to face the Twins, and I think the Yankees are going to beat the Twins, and then they're going to have to go to Cleveland to face Cleveland in round 1, and then that means the Red Sox will face the Astros here in Houston in round 1 as well. I think that's a harder matchup for the Astros than if they were to play the Yankees. The Yankees offense would not bode well facing up against that pitching staff of the Astros. The Astros they have a great finesse pitching lineup, and the Yankees do not hit finesse pitching as well as they do with just a pure fastball pitchers. So I think it bodes well if the Astros get the number 1 seed, but we'll see how that all plays out. And then LA has the best record out in the National League, and Washington will come in second there. And then you'll see Arizona play either Milwaukee, Colorado, or St. Louis, one of those 3 teams, or maybe even Chicago, really, too. They could still end up in a wild card slot as well. So, yeah, we'll see how that all plays out. And, I really think that Chicago will make the playoffs. I want to make a bold, dramatic prediction here, but I can't. All right. Dick's giving me the wrap-up signal. We got 2 minutes left here on Jake from Sports Talk. Thank you guys so much for joining in again here. And remember, you can watch the show, listen to the show every Wednesday live from 1 to 2 p.m. on irlonestar.com, like my family does, and like my friends do, and like the wonderful followers that I have from all around the world. Or if you're in the greater Montgomery County area, 104.5, 106.1. Tune in every week. Don't ever miss a wonderful show. And follow, like, subscribe, do everything you need to do to make sure if you do miss the live airing, you can go recatch the replay of it on Google Play, iTunes. Check the links out on Facebook. You can watch it on YouTube. Come see my brand new beautiful haircut. It looks very sexy. My hairstylist did a wonderful job. Love her to death. Shout out to Wendy the beautician. She's awesome. All right, guys. We'll see you next Wednesday here on Lone Star Community Radio. This is Jake LaFleur signing out from Jake from Sports Talk. Thanks for checking out this podcast of Lone Star Community Radio, Montgomery County's community radio station. If you enjoyed this recording, make sure to check out our past shows online at irlonestar.com or their respective video or podcast formats on YouTube, Google Play, or iTunes. If you have any questions regarding the show, either it being about sponsorships or questions for the host, contact the station manager at dick@irlonestar.com or call the station at 936-647-3776. This show was recorded in downtown Conroe, Texas at the Lone Star Community Radio Studios, and Lone Star Community Radio reserves all rights to this recording and images.